I stood in the back of the Riverside Cultural Center, watching my son accept an award I'd helped fund. The irony wasn't lost on me, neither was the fact that my name appeared nowhere in the program. The auditorium held maybe 300 people, local business owners, city council members, university donors, the kind of crowd that mattered in a mid-sized American city where reputation was currency. Edison sat front row center with his wife Melissa, both of them dressed like they'd stepped out of a catalog. His suit probably cost more than I made in a week when I was his age. My wife Laura stood beside me, her hand resting lightly on my arm. She'd been quiet all morning, but I knew that look. She was thinking, calculating, seeing things I hadn't noticed yet. "They moved us," she said quietly. "What?" "Our seats. We were supposed to be in the third row. I saw the original seating chart last month." I looked at the program again. Sure enough, we were listed in row 8, not even close to the front, not even close to the other major donors. On stage, the university president was talking about innovation and community leadership. Edison had led a digital archive project for the city's historical records. A good project, a necessary project, a project I'd quietly contributed $40,000 to make happen. The president called Edison to the podium. My son stood, buttoned his jacket, walked up with the kind of easy confidence that made people trust him immediately. He shook hands, accepted a plaque, turned to the microphone. "I want to thank everyone who made this possible," he began. His voice was smooth, practiced. The city council for their vision, the university for their support, my incredible team who worked countless hours. He listed names. 8, 9, 10 people, colleagues, partners, volunteers. His wife's name came up twice. My name never came up at all. Laura's grip on my arm tightened slightly. I watched him speak for another 3 minutes. He was good at this. Always had been. He knew how to make people feel included, how to make his success seem like everyone's success. It was a gift, really. The kind of gift that got you elected to things, promoted to things, trusted with things. "And finally," he said, "I want to thank my family for their unwavering support." He looked out at the audience, found Melissa, smiled. She smiled back. The room loved it. I watched 2 women in the second row actually clutch their hands to their chests. He didn't look at the 8th row, didn't even glance our direction. The applause started. I clapped too, because that's what you do. Laura clapped beside me, but her hands barely made a sound. As Edison returned to his seat, the president took the microphone again. "We also want to acknowledge the generous donors who made this project possible." Here it comes, I thought. The Riverside Foundation, the Meyer Family Trust, the Downtown Business Council. 3 organizations, no individual names. The Riverside Foundation was the pass-through I'd used for my donation. They'd specifically told me my name would be listed separately, personally, because I'd given more than twice what anyone else had contributed. I looked down at the program. The donor acknowledgement page listed the same 3 organizations, nothing else. Someone had made a change, recently, between when Laura saw the original seating chart and now. The ceremony continued. There was a panel discussion, another award, closing remarks. I didn't hear any of it. I was too busy reconstructing the timeline in my head. I'd made the donation 13 months ago. The project launched 8 months ago. The ceremony was scheduled 6 months ago. Laura saw the seating chart 5 weeks ago. Somewhere in those 5 weeks, someone had rewritten the narrative. When it ended, people flooded toward the reception area. Coffee, cookies, networking, the social metabolism of civic achievement. Edison and Melissa held court near the stage, surrounded by admirers. Laura and I walked slowly toward the exit. "We should congratulate him," Laura said. "Should we?" She looked at me. "You want to know if it was deliberate? Don't you? I already know it was." We changed direction, moving through the crowd toward the front. It took 5 minutes to get close enough to matter. Edison saw us coming. For just a moment, less than a second, something crossed his face. Not quite fear, not quite guilt. Something harder to name. Then the smile returned. "Dad, Mom, you made it." "We were invited," I said. He laughed like I'd made a joke. "Great turnout, right? I wasn't expecting this many people." "Neither were we," Laura said. "We were supposed to be in the third row." "Oh yeah, sorry about that. There was some confusion with the seating chart. Last-minute changes, you know how it is." Melissa appeared at his elbow. She was tall, angular, with the kind of bone structure that photographs well. "Mr. and Mrs. Warren, so glad you could come." She'd called us by our first names for the first 8 years she'd known us. The formal distance was new, calculated. "Congratulations," I said to Edison. "It's a real achievement." "Thanks," Couldn't have done it without the team. Or the funding, Laura added. A flicker. Just a flicker. Then Edison nodded. Absolutely. The foundation donors were incredible. The Riverside Foundation, I said carefully. That's the one that lists individual contributors, isn't it? Sometimes, depends on the donor's preference. He glanced over his shoulder. Oh, I should go talk to Councilman Hayes. We're trying to get funding for Phase 2. He moved away smoothly, Melissa following. They didn't look back. Laura and I stood there in the dissipating crowd. A few people nodded at us politely, but no one stopped to talk. We were furniture, background elements in someone else's success story. Let's go, Laura said. We walked out into the afternoon sunlight. The cultural center was downtown, surrounded by renovated buildings and optimistic coffee shops. My truck was parked 3 blocks away, next to a meter I'd overfed by 2 hours. We didn't talk during the walk. We didn't talk during the drive home. Laura stared out the window at the familiar streets, her face unreadable. Our house was in an older neighborhood, pre-war construction, the kind of place where people stayed for 30 years. We'd raised both kids here, Edison and his younger sister Valerie, 2 children, 2 bedrooms, 1 mortgage paid off a decade ago. I need to check something, Laura said. She went inside. I stayed in the truck for another minute, watching a neighbor kid ride his bike in circles at the end of the cul-de-sac. The normality of it felt alien. Inside, Laura was already in the spare room we used as an office. She had her laptop open, files spread across the desk. I recognized the donation paperwork, the correspondence with the Riverside Foundation, the project proposals. What are you looking for? The agreement, she said, not looking up. The one that specified how your donation would be acknowledged. I leaned against the doorframe. It's in there. I remember signing it. So do I. She found it 20 minutes later. A physical letter, dated 14 months ago, signed by the Foundation's director. The language was clear. Individual donors contributing more than $25,000 would receive personal acknowledgement in all project materials and public presentations. I'd given $40,000. My name should have been first. Laura set the letter down carefully. Did you change your mind? Maybe ask them not to use your name? No. Did Edison know how much you gave? I thought about that. He must have. He asked me to contribute, said it would mean a lot to him, professionally, that having family support would show community buy-in. And you believed him. He's my son. Laura looked at me, really looked at me. Call the foundation Monday. Find out what happened. What if Edison asked them to remove it? Then you'll know. I sat down on the edge of the desk. The office smelled like old paper and printer ink. Through the window, I could see our backyard, the fence I'd rebuilt 5 years ago, the garden Laura had been maintaining since before the kids were born. Why would he do that? I asked. Laura closed her laptop. I don't know, but I think we should find out before we decide how angry to be. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept running through the ceremony in my head, replaying Edison's speech, his body language, the way he'd looked at Melissa instead of into the crowd when he thanked his family, the way he'd left so quickly when Laura mentioned the foundation. At 2 a.m., I got up and went to the kitchen, made coffee even though I didn't need it, stood at the counter drinking it while the house settled around me. Laura appeared in the doorway. You're thinking too much. He lied to me. Maybe. You saw his face. I saw something, she admitted, but I want to know what before I assume the worst. He's not a kid anymore. He's 34. He knows what he's doing. Laura came over, took the coffee cup from my hands, set it down. Monday. We'll know Monday. But I already knew. Deep in my gut, in the place where you feel things before you can prove them. Edison had erased me deliberately, carefully, for reasons I didn't understand yet. I went back to bed, but didn't sleep. I lay there in the dark, listening to Laura breathe beside me, thinking about my son's smile and the applause that hadn't been meant for me. Before we continue, hit the hype button, subscribe, and like the video to help the channel grow. Tell us which city you are from in the comments. We'd love to get to know our audience better. Monday came slowly. I spent the weekend doing yard work, fixing a section of fence that didn't really need fixing, avoiding the question that sat in the middle of our house like a third person. Laura was quieter than usual. She cooked, cleaned, worked in her garden, but I caught her staring at nothing several times, her hands still, her mind somewhere else. Sunday night, she brought it up again. You're calling tomorrow. I know. First thing. I will. She nodded and went back to her book, but she wasn't reading. Her eyes weren't moving. The Riverside Foundation opened at 9. I waited until 9:15, giving them time to settle in, check email, drink coffee. Then I dialed the number from their letterhead. A receptionist answered, professional, cheerful. I asked for the director, Michael Brennan. May I ask what this is regarding? A donation I made last year, the Historical Archive Project. One moment, please. Hold music. Something classical, inoffensive. I sat at the kitchen table with a notepad in front of me, a pen in my hand, the letter Laura had found open beside me. Brennan came on the line. This is Michael. How can I help you? Mr. Brennan, this is Robert Warren. I made a donation to the Digital Archive Project through your foundation last year. Of course. Thank you so much for your support. That project has been a tremendous success. I attended the ceremony on Friday. Wonderful. I hope you enjoyed it. I noticed my name wasn't mentioned. Silence. Brief but telling. I see, Brennan said carefully. Can you hold for just a moment? I want to pull up your file. More hold music. Longer this time. I could hear him typing in the background, the click of a mouse, a drawer opening. Mr. Warren, I have your file here. It looks like there was a request to make your donation anonymous. From who? I'm sorry? Who requested that my donation be anonymous? More typing. It says here the request came from you, via email. Let me find the date. A pause. March 7th. I looked at my notes. March 7th was 2 months ago. What email address did this request come from? Brennan hesitated. I'm looking at that now. It came from... His voice changed slightly. Ah, it came from a family email address, not your primary contact email. What address? warren.family2224@gmail.com. I didn't have that email address. I'd never had that email address. Mr. Brennan, I need you to forward me that email. I can do that. But Mr. Warren, if there was some kind of misunderstanding, there was no misunderstanding. I never sent that email. Someone else did. Another pause, longer. I see. That's concerning. I'll forward it to you right away. And I want to apologize if there was any confusion on our end. Did anyone else communicate with you about my donation, besides that email? I could hear him scrolling, clicking. There's a phone call logged in April, from Edison Warren. Your son, according to the contact information, he called to confirm the anonymous designation was in place for the ceremony program. My hand tightened on the phone. What exactly did he say? Let me read the note. Called to confirm father's donation will be listed under foundation name only per his March request. Wants to avoid public attention. Please ensure no personal acknowledgement at ceremony or in materials. I made myself breathe slowly. And you didn't think to verify that with me directly? Mr. Warren, we had what appeared to be a clear email from your family account, followed by a confirmation call from your son. We had no reason to doubt the authenticity. He was right. They hadn't done anything wrong. They'd been careful even. They'd just been lied to efficiently. I understand, I said. Please send me that email, and any other correspondence related to my donation. I'll do that right now. And again, I'm very sorry for any confusion. If you'd like us to issue a correction or acknowledgement, let me think about it. Of course, please let me know if there's anything else we can do. I ended the call and sat there looking at my phone. The kitchen felt too bright suddenly, the morning sun through the window too direct. Laura came in from the backyard, dirt on her hands, a trowel in her pocket. She saw my face and stopped. What did they say? I told her. All of it. The fake email, Edison's confirmation call, the careful orchestration. She sat down across from me. He planned this. For months. Why? That was the question. I'd been turning it over since Friday, and I still didn't have an answer that made sense. Edison didn't need to erase my name. The project would have succeeded either way. The award was his regardless. There was no benefit to making me invisible, unless that was the point. I need to talk to him, I said. Not yet. I looked at her. Why not? Because you'll tell him you know, and he'll have time to prepare whatever story he's going to tell. She was right. Laura had a strategic mind. 20 years as a paralegal had taught her to think 3 steps ahead. She saw patterns, consequences, leverage points. Then what do I do? Wait for the email from Brennan. See exactly what was said. Then we decide. The email arrived an hour later. The fake message was short, professional, completely plausible. Mr. Brennan, after consideration, I'd prefer to keep my donation to the archive project anonymous. Please list it under the Riverside Foundation name rather than individually. I appreciate your help with this. Robert Warren, It was a good forgery. The tone was right. The phrasing was neutral. Nothing dramatic, nothing suspicious. Just a quiet request from a modest donor. Except I hadn't written it. Laura read it over my shoulder. He used your first name. Edison calls you Dad in messages. Not always. Often enough that this feels wrong. She scrolled down. Look at the email signature. There was no signature, just the name. I always used a signature block with my phone number. Small things, Laura said, but they add up. I forwarded the email to my own account, then opened my sent folder and searched for anything to the Riverside Foundation. Nothing. I checked deleted items, trash, spam, nothing there either. He created the account, I said, sent the message, then never used it again. Which means there's no trail. Nothing to prove it wasn't you except the fact that you didn't know the account existed. I sat back. He's covering his tracks. No. Laura's voice was flat. He's covered them already. This was done months ago. We're just finding out now. She was right. Edison hadn't scrambled to hide evidence after the ceremony. He'd built the lie long before. Brick by brick, email by email, confirmation call by confirmation call. By the time I sat in that auditorium, the erasure was complete. I called Edison that afternoon. He answered on the third ring, his voice cheerful. Hey, Dad, what's up? I wanted to talk about Friday. Yeah, sorry we didn't get more time. It was crazy. So many people wanted to talk about Phase 2. I talked to the Riverside Foundation this morning. Silence. Brief but absolute. Oh, yeah? They said my donation was made anonymous, that I requested it. Right, you sent them an email. No, I didn't. Another pause. Dad, I think you might be forgetting. We talked about it back in March, remember? You said you didn't want attention, that the project mattered more than recognition. My jaw clenched. We never had that conversation. We did. You called me one night, pretty late. You'd been thinking about it. Said you didn't want it to look like you were buying influence. He was good. Very good. The details were perfect. The kind of thing I might actually say. The kind of conversation we might actually have had. Edison, I'm looking at the email right now. It came from an account I don't have. What do you mean? Warren.family2024@gmail. That's not my email. Oh. He laughed, easy and natural. That's the family account. Mom set it up for sharing documents and stuff. You probably just forgot. Your mother never set up that account. Dad. His voice changed, became patient, concerned. Are you feeling okay? Because you sound confused. That's when I felt it. The shift. He wasn't trying to convince me. He was documenting my instability. This call, this conversation, it was evidence. Later, if I pushed, he could point to this moment and say I'd been confused, forgetful, maybe something worse. I'm fine, I said carefully. You sure? Because honestly, this sounds like the kind of thing we should talk to a doctor about. Memory issues. There's nothing wrong with my memory. Okay, but if you're feeling off, we can help. Melissa knows a great neurologist. No shame in getting checked out. I closed my eyes. I have to go. Dad, wait. I ended the call. Laura was standing in the doorway. She'd heard enough. He's gaslighting you, she said. I know. He's going to tell people you're confused, forgetful, maybe something worse. I know. She came over, took my phone, looked at the recent call log. He's been planning this longer than we thought. What do you mean? Think about it. The fake email was in March. But to make this work, he had to know you'd be a problem eventually. He had to anticipate that you'd ask questions. I understood. The memory concern, the confusion. He's been building that narrative, too. Has he mentioned it before? Your memory? I thought back. At Christmas. He made a joke about me repeating a story. Then again in February, something about me forgetting a restaurant name. Small things. Yeah. Seeds, Laura said. So when it matters, when you push back, he can point to a pattern. I felt something cold settle in my chest. This wasn't impulse. This wasn't opportunity. This was architecture. Edison had built this lie the way you build a house, foundation first, wall second, roof last. By the time I noticed, I was already living inside it. I want to see the documents, I said. What documents? Everything related to the project, the original proposals, the funding agreements, the organizational structure, all of it. Laura nodded. I'll make some calls. She spent the rest of the day on the phone. She'd kept some connections from her paralegal days, people who owed her favors, people who knew how to find things. By evening, she had a list of what existed and where. The project had been Edison's from the start. He'd pitched it to the city council 18 months ago, got initial approval, then started fundraising. My donation had come in at month 6, after he'd already secured a smaller amount from the university and the business council. He came to me, I said, reading through Laura's notes. Specifically asked for my help. Because you were the biggest potential donor he had access to, Laura said. Family money. Easy ask. Hard to refuse. I didn't want to refuse. I believed in the project. I know. That's why it worked. I kept reading. The organizational structure was interesting. Edison was listed as project director, but the fiscal sponsor was the university. The Riverside Foundation was just the pass-through for private donations. All decisions went through Edison. He controlled everything, I said. Not everything. The foundation controls the donor list. The university controls the budget. The city council controls the approval. But he's the face. He's the one everyone sees. Exactly. Laura tapped the paper. Which means if your name had been on the acknowledgement, people would have asked questions. They'd wonder if the project was really his, or if you'd bought it for him. It doesn't matter if it's true. It matters what it looks like. I understood then. Edison hadn't erased me out of cruelty. He'd erased me out of ambition. My name, my contribution, my presence, it all complicated his narrative. It made his success shared instead of singular. It introduced doubt. He chose his career over me, I said. Laura didn't answer right away. When she did, her voice was careful. I think it's worse than that. What do you mean? I think he chose his career and convinced himself it was justified, that you'd understand, that it was better this way. I looked at her. You think he'll do it again? If it benefits him? Yes. That night, I went out to the garage. It was late, past midnight, but I couldn't sleep. I turned on the light and looked at the tools hanging on the pegboard, the workbench I'd built when Edison was in high school, the shelves filled with paint cans and motor oil and parts I'd saved because someday I might need them. I'd been a contractor for 30 years, municipal work mostly, roads, sidewalks, public buildings, steady work, good pay, a reputation for finishing on time and under budget. I'd retired 3 years ago with enough saved to be comfortable, to help the kids if they needed it, to live quietly. I'd taught Edison how to use these tools, spent weekends with him building birdhouses, fixing bikes, learning to measure twice and cut once. He'd been good at it, patient, precise, thoughtful. Somewhere along the way, he'd learned to build other things, lies, narratives, alibis, and he'd become patient and precise at that too. I picked up a hammer from the workbench. It was old, the handle worn smooth from years of use. I'd used it to build the deck, fix the fence, hang pictures. Ordinary work. Honest work. I set it back down carefully. Laura appeared in the doorway. Come to bed? In a minute. She came over, stood beside me. We don't have to do anything right now. I know. But if we're going to do something, we need to be smart. I looked at her. What are you thinking? I'm thinking Edison made a mistake. What mistake? He assumed you'd never find out, or that if you did, you'd let it go. And? You're not going to let it go. She was right. I wasn't. I couldn't. Because this wasn't just about a missing name in a program. It was about Edison looking at me and deciding I was disposable. It was about him building a fake email account, making confirmation calls, constructing an entire alternate reality where I didn't matter. I want to know why, I said. We'll find out. Laura's voice was steady. But carefully, because if he's willing to do this, he's willing to do worse. We went back inside. I still didn't sleep. I lay in the dark, thinking about the hammer in the garage, the tools on the wall, the things you can build, and the things you can break. The information came from an unexpected source. Laura's friend Diane worked in the university administration office. Not high level, just a records clerk, but she had access to things that mattered. Laura had lunch with her on Tuesday. When she came home, she had copies of Edison's employment contract, his project proposals, and his performance reviews. I can't believe she just gave you these, I said. She didn't just give them. I asked the right questions. What questions? Whether Edison's project funding was properly documented, whether university oversight was adequate, whether there were any compliance concerns. Were there? Not officially, but Diane flagged something odd. She showed me the budget documents. The archive project had been approved for $200,000 with funding split between the city, the university, and private donors. But there was a line item near the bottom. Administrative overhead, 15%. That's $30,000, I said. Correct. and according to university policy, administrative overhead should be capped at 10% for external projects. So Edison took an extra 5%. Not took, charged. It's in the contract. I read through the details. The extra 5% was described as project management consulting fees. Vague, but not illegal. Where did that money go? I asked. To Edison, through an LLC he set up 18 months ago. Laura showed me the business registration. Edison Warren Consulting, LLC. Registered in Delaware, with Edison listed as the sole owner. He's paying himself, I said. Twice. Once as the university project director, once as a private consultant. That's got to be a conflict of interest. It is, but the university approved it. Why would they do that? Because Edison's project was successful. It brought in external funding, it generated positive publicity, and he's good at making people believe he's worth the investment. I set the papers down. He's extracting maximum value from every angle. Yes, and it's all technically legal. Technically? The problem is perception. If people knew he was double billing, even legally, it would look bad. Who knows? The university finance office, the city auditor, maybe a few other people, but not the general public. Not yet, I said. Laura looked at me. What are you thinking? That Edison's built a perfect facade, but facades crack under pressure. What kind of pressure? The kind that comes from asking questions publicly. She understood. You want to force an audit. I want to force questions. An audit will follow. How? I thought about Morrison, about his comment that people in the city respected me. We make it a story. A story? About municipal accountability, about how public funds are spent, about transparency. You want to go to the press? Eventually, but first we need to build momentum. Over the next week, Laura and I mapped out a strategy. We identified key people who'd care about financial oversight. City council members, community advocates, local business owners who donated to the project. I started reaching out. Not aggressive, just curious. Asked how people felt about the archive project, whether they thought the funding had been used effectively, whether they had questions about Edison's role. Most people were positive. The project had succeeded, after all. The digital archive was functional, useful, exactly what had been promised. But a few people had concerns. A council member mentioned that the budget had come in over the initial estimate. Nothing dramatic, but enough to require additional city funds. A university administrator mentioned that Edison's consulting fees had raised eyebrows internally. Not enough to block approval, but enough to generate discussion. A donor mentioned that the acknowledgment structure had changed several times during the project. People who'd been promised recognition found themselves listed differently than expected. Small concerns, individually meaningless, but collectively they suggested something less than perfect transparency. I documented everything. Dates, quotes, concerns. Built a timeline that showed how Edison had managed the project, how he'd shifted things to benefit himself, how he'd controlled the narrative. Laura reviewed my notes. This is good, but it's not enough to force anything. What else do we need? A catalyst. Something that makes people care enough to ask questions publicly. Like what? Like you? I looked at her. Explain. You're the wronged party. You gave $40,000 and got erased. That's a story people will care about. I'm just one donor. You're a respected contractor who spent 30 years working for the city. You're someone people know, and you were betrayed by your own son. That matters. You want me to go public? I want you to tell the truth, publicly, in a way that forces Edison to respond. How? A letter. To the city council, asking for a review of the project's financial management. I thought about that. He'll say I'm confused, that I'm misremembering. Let him, but he'll have to say it publicly. And once he does, we can prove he's lying. With what? The fake email, the confirmation call, the evidence we've gathered. I nodded slowly. It was a good plan. Simple, direct, impossible to ignore. When? I asked. After you're ready. I'm ready now. No, Laura said firmly. You're angry now. There's a difference. She was right. I was angry. I'd been angry for weeks, but anger wasn't enough. I needed to be calm, controlled, unshakable. I needed to be someone people would believe. So I went back to the warehouse, spent another week working, building strength, getting comfortable with discomfort. Morrison noticed the change. You're different, he said one afternoon. How? You move like you're expecting something. I am. Violence? Maybe. So, but not the kind you're thinking. Morrison nodded. You planning to hit him? I'm planning to stop him. That's not an answer. It's the only one I've got. Morrison studied me. I've known you 20 years. Never seen you like this. Like what? Dangerous. The word hung between us. I'd never thought of myself as dangerous. I was a contractor, a builder, someone who fixed things. But maybe Laura was right. Maybe I'd changed. Or maybe I'd always had this in me and just never needed it before. You still offering that job? I asked. Always. I might take you up on it. After. After what? After I finish this. Morrison left without pushing further, but I saw him watching me differently after that. Not worried exactly, just aware. That night, I drafted the letter. Laura edited it, tightened the language, made it factual and unemotional. Dear City Council members, it began, I am writing to request a review of the financial management of the Municipal Archive Digitization Project. It went on to outline my concerns. The missing acknowledgment, the administrative fees, the lack of transparency around private consulting income, all phrased carefully, professionally, with documentation referenced but not included. This is good, Laura said, but you can't send it yet. Why not? Because Edison will see it as an attack and respond accordingly. We need to be ready for that response. I am ready. No, we need to know what he'll say before he says it. We need to anticipate his defense. How? By understanding what he values most. I thought about Edison, his ambition, his image, his carefully constructed success. His reputation, I said. Exactly. He'll do anything to protect it. So we threaten it. No, we let him threaten it himself, by forcing him to choose between truth and image. I understood. We make it impossible for him to tell the truth without destroying his reputation, and impossible for him to lie without being caught. It was elegant. Cruel, maybe, but elegant. When do we send the letter? I asked. When Phase 2 launches. When he's committed, visible, unable to back away quietly. How do we know when that happens? We watch, we wait, and we stay ready. So we waited. I kept going to the warehouse, kept building strength, kept preparing for something I couldn't quite name yet. Laura kept gathering information, kept tracking Edison's movements, kept watching for the moment when he'd be most vulnerable. It came 3 weeks later. Laura found the announcement on the university website. Edison had been promoted to Director of Community Partnerships, a new position created specifically for him, with a mandate to develop additional public-private projects like the archive. And Phase 2 of the archive project had been approved. Another $150,000 in funding, another ceremony planned for 6 weeks from now. This is it, Laura said. Send the letter? Not yet. First, we need to meet with someone. Who? A journalist, someone who'll care about this story. She'd already made contact. A reporter from the local paper who covered city government. His name was Greg Patterson, and he'd been writing about municipal transparency for 5 years. We met him at a coffee shop downtown. He was younger than I expected, maybe 35, wearing a blazer over a t-shirt and taking notes on a tablet. Mrs. Warren says you have concerns about the archive project, he said. I do. I told him everything. The missing acknowledgement, the fake email, Edison's consulting fees, the promotion that seemed timed to the new funding announcement. Patterson listened carefully, asked questions, made notes. When I finished, he sat back. This is a good story, he said, but it's also complicated. How so? Your son is popular. The archive project was successful. People will be skeptical of criticism that seems personal. It's not personal. It's absolutely personal. You're his father. He erased your name. That's as personal as it gets. I couldn't argue with that. But, Patterson continued, if there's genuinely questionable financial management, that's newsworthy. I'd need to verify your claims independently. I have documentation. I'd need to see it, and I'd need to confirm it with other sources. How long will that take? A week, maybe 2. Depends on what I find. Laura spoke up. The Phase 2 ceremony is in 6 weeks. Patterson nodded. If this story runs, it should run before then. Give the City Council time to respond. Maybe delay or modify the project if concerns are warranted. Will you write it? I asked. If I can verify the facts. But I need to be clear, I'm not writing a hit piece on your son. I'm writing about municipal accountability. That's all I'm asking. We gave Patterson copies of everything, the fake email, the consulting contracts, the budget documents. He spent an hour reviewing them, asked more questions, then said he'd be in touch. As we left, Laura said, "He believes you." "You think so?" "I know so. He wouldn't have taken the time otherwise." "What happens now?" "We wait, and we prepare for Edison to find out." We didn't have to wait long. Patterson did his job thoroughly. He interviewed people at the university, he requested documents from the city, he talked to other donors, and word got back to Edison. He called me 4 days later. "Dad, we need to talk." "About what?" "I heard you've been asking questions. About the archive project." "Who told you that?" "Does it matter? What matters is that you're creating problems." "I'm asking for transparency." "You're making accusations." "I'm stating facts." His voice hardened. "You need to stop." "Why?" "Because you're embarrassing yourself. People are starting to think you're having memory issues." "Are they, or are you telling them that?" Silence, brief but telling. "I'm trying to protect you," Edison said. "From what?" "From looking foolish. Dad, you're getting older. Sometimes people remember things differently than they happen." "Like you remembering a conversation we never had?" "We had that conversation." "No. You created a fake email account. You erased my name. You've been lying for months." "I haven't lied about anything." "Then why did you call the Riverside Foundation to confirm my donation would be anonymous?" Another pause, longer this time. "I was following your instructions," he said carefully. "Instructions I never gave." "Dad, I'm worried about you. This paranoia, these accusations, it's not healthy." "I'm not paranoid. I'm informed." "You're wrong, and you're going to damage both our reputations if you keep this up." "Maybe your reputation needs to be damaged." "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means I know about the consulting fees, the double billing, the LLC." Complete silence. "You're playing a dangerous game," Edison finally said. "Am I?" "If you go public with this, I'll make sure everyone knows you're confused, that you've been having problems. I have witnesses, I have documentation." "So do I." "Mine will be more believable." "We'll see." I ended the call. Laura was standing in the doorway. "He threatened you." "Yes. He's going to try to discredit you." "I know." "Are you scared?" I thought about that. "No." "Why not?" "Because I'm not the one who's been lying." She smiled. It wasn't a happy smile. It was something colder, sharper. "Good, because it's about to get worse." Patterson's story ran on Thursday, front page of the local section. The headline was measured, professional. Questions raised about archive project financial management. The article was careful. Patterson didn't accuse Edison of wrongdoing directly. He presented facts, the consulting fees, the administrative overhead, my missing acknowledgment, the timing of Edison's promotion. But he also included Edison's response, a statement from the university defending the financial arrangements as standard practice for public-private partnerships, a quote from Edison saying he was disappointed that questions are being raised about a successful project, and a brief mention that the concerns had been brought forward by a family member whose donation acknowledgement was modified at their own request. Edison was preempting my narrative, making it about family conflict, not financial impropriety. The response was swift. Within hours, people were commenting online. Some supported the questions. Transparency matters, they said. Public funds deserve scrutiny, but others defended Edison. The project worked, they said. Why attack success? One commenter suggested I was jealous of my son's achievements. Another said I was clearly going through something and should be left alone. Laura read the comments with a grim expression. He's controlling the story. He's trying to. No, he is. Look at this. She showed me a comment from someone claiming to be a university colleague. I've worked with Edison for 2 years. He's professional, ethical, dedicated. These accusations seem personal, not factual. The account was 2 days old. The only other posts were supporting Edison. Fake, I said. Yes, but effective. More comments appeared throughout the day, some genuine, some clearly manufactured. By evening, the narrative had shifted. This wasn't about financial oversight anymore. It was about a father who couldn't accept his son's success. I called Patterson. I see what's happening, he said before I could speak. He's manipulating the response. I know, and I'm working on a follow-up, but I need more. Something that proves deliberate deception? I gave you the fake email, which could be explained as a family account misunderstanding. I need something unambiguous. Like what? Like proof he knew the email was fake. or proof he's been lying about the financial arrangements. I didn't have that yet, but I knew someone who might. Morrison called me that evening. "I saw the article," he said. "And?" "And I think you should know something. Edison's been calling contractors." "What contractors?" "People who worked with you, asking about your retirement, your health, whether you've seemed confused. He's building a case." "Yes. And some people are listening." "Who?" "James, for one. The guy I introduced you to at the warehouse. Edison tracked him down, asked if you seemed unstable." "What did James say?" "That you seemed fine, but Edison planted the seed. Now James is wondering." "Anyone else?" "Chen. A few others. Edison's methodical. He's not making accusations, just asking concerned questions. Concerned son worried about his aging father." "Exactly." I thanked Morrison and ended the call. Laura was watching me. "He's going to win," she said quietly. "No. Look at what he's doing. He's not fighting the facts. He's undermining your credibility, and it's working. Then we need to change tactics." "How?" I thought about the warehouse, about the work I'd been doing, not just physical training, preparation, for something more direct. "We need to make him react," I said. "He is reacting." "No, he's controlling. We need to make him lose control." "How do you do that?" "By going to the place he can't control, where he has to respond in real time." "The ceremony." "Yes." Laura shook her head. "That's weeks away. He'll have destroyed your credibility by then." "Maybe. Or maybe that's when it matters most." "What are you planning?" "I don't know yet, but I'm going to that ceremony, and I'm going to tell the truth. They won't let you speak. Then I'll find another way." She looked at me for a long moment. "You're not going to hit him, are you?" "I don't know." "Robert, I don't know, Laura. I know I need to stop him. I know he needs to face consequences, but I don't know exactly how yet. Violence won't help, won't it? Everyone's talking about my credibility, my memory, my confusion, but nobody's talking about what Edison did. Maybe they need a reason to pay attention." "That's not you talking, isn't it? Maybe this has always been me. Maybe I just never needed it before." Laura was quiet. Then she said, "If you're going to do something, do it smart. Don't give him what he wants." "What does he want?" "Proof that you're unstable, that his concern is justified." She was right. Any violence, any public outburst would confirm Edison's narrative. I'd be the confused old man, unable to cope with reality. "Then what do I do?" "What you've always done. Build something, carefully, properly, so it stands." I thought about that. About 30 years of construction work. About learning to do things right, not fast. About understanding that the foundation matters more than the facade. "I need more evidence," I said. "From where?" "From Edison himself." Over the next 2 weeks, I watched my son. Not physically. I didn't follow him or spy on him. I just paid attention to his schedule, his public appearances, his patterns. He was busy. The promotion had increased his responsibilities. He was meeting with city officials, university administrators, potential donors. Building support for Phase 2. Laura tracked his movements through social media, public calendars, university announcements. She built a schedule that showed where he'd be and when. "He has a planning meeting at the Cultural Center," she said, "next Tuesday, for the Phase 2 ceremony." "How do you know?" "The venue booking is public record, and the university calendar lists Edison as attending." "Who else will be there?" "Venue staff, probably Melissa, maybe some university people." "Not city officials?" "Not until the actual ceremony." I nodded slowly. "That's when he's vulnerable." "What do you mean?" "At the ceremony, he'll have allies, people who'll back him up, control the narrative, but at a planning meeting, it's just logistics. Just him and the people making it happen." "What are you planning?" "A conversation, one he can't script. He won't talk to you." "He will if I don't give him a choice." Laura looked worried. "You're going to confront him." "Not confront, just talk. But where he can't run away, where he has to answer." "That's still confrontation." "Maybe, but it's private. Just him and me. If it goes wrong, nobody sees." "And if it goes right? Then maybe he tells me the truth. Maybe he admits what he did. Maybe I get what I need to stop this." Laura didn't look convinced, but she didn't argue. She understood that I'd already decided. Tuesday came slowly. I drove to the Cultural Center in the afternoon, parked in the back lot where Edison wouldn't see my truck. The venue was the same one where the first ceremony had been held. The irony wasn't lost on me. I waited in the lobby. It was empty, quiet. A few staff members walked past but didn't pay attention to me. Edison arrived at 3. I watched him walk in with Melissa and a woman I recognized as the venue manager. They were talking, laughing, comfortable. I waited until they went into the main hall, then I followed. The hall was empty, except for them. They were standing on the stage, discussing lighting and sound setup. Melissa was taking notes. Edison was pointing at different areas, explaining his vision. I walked down the center aisle. My footsteps echoed on the wooden floor. Edison saw me. His expression changed instantly. Surprise, then anger, then something more calculated. "Dad, what are you doing here? We need to talk. This isn't a good time." "It's the only time." Melissa stepped forward. "Mr. Warren, this is a private meeting. I'm his father. Nothing about this family is private." Edison came to the edge of the stage. "You need to leave." "Not until we talk." "We have nothing to talk about." "We have everything to talk about. The fake email, the consulting fees, the lies you've been telling." The venue manager looked uncomfortable. "Should I call security?" "No," Edison said quickly. He climbed down from the stage, walked toward me. Melissa stayed back, watching. When he was close enough that only I could hear, he said quietly, "You're making a mistake." "Am I?" "You think you're the victim here, but you're not. You're the problem." "Explain that." "You're old, you're retired, you're done, but you can't accept it. So you're trying to drag me down with you. I'm trying to hold you accountable." "For what? For succeeding? For building something you never could?" The words hit harder than I expected. Not because they were true, but because they were cruel. Deliberately so. "I built plenty," I said. "Buildings. Roads. Things that required muscle, not brains. This?" He gestured at the stage, the hall. "This requires vision. Something you never had. I had the vision to support you. You had money I needed. That's not vision. That's just utility." I felt something cold settle in my chest. "That's what I am to you. Utility?" "You were. Past tense. So you erased me." I removed an inconvenient detail. There's a difference. Not to me. Because you're thinking small, like always. You see one ceremony, one acknowledgement. I see a career, a legacy, something bigger than your name in a program. Built on lies. Built on strategy. You call it lying. I call it management. I stepped closer. "You created a fake email account." "I used a family account." "That didn't exist." "That exists now, retroactively if necessary." "You called the foundation and lied." "I clarified your wishes." "I never gave those wishes." "You would have, if you'd understood what was at stake." I stared at my son. His face was calm, confident. He wasn't sorry. He wasn't conflicted. He was simply certain that he'd made the right choice. "You really believe this," I said. "I know it. Dad, you're stuck in a world where honesty matters more than results. That world doesn't exist anymore. Nobody cares how you get there as long as you arrive." "I care." "Which is why you're standing in an empty hall talking to me instead of sitting on a stage accepting awards." The words were designed to hurt. They succeeded. "I'm going to stop you," I said. "No, you're not. Because you don't have proof. You have suspicions and hurt feelings. That's not enough. Patterson's investigating." "Patterson's a local reporter desperate for relevance. By the time he proves anything, if he proves anything, Phase 2 will be approved, funded, and underway. My position will be secure. People will know. People will know what I tell them, that you're a confused old man who can't accept that his son surpassed him. That story is already being told, believed, accepted. Not by everyone. By everyone who matters." I felt my hands clench. Edison noticed. His eyes flicked down, then back to my face. "You want to hit me?" he said. "Yes. Do it. Please. Give me the evidence I need that you're unstable." He was right. That's exactly what he wanted. Proof that I was dangerous, unpredictable, unable to control myself. I forced my hands to relax. "I'm not giving you that." "Then you're not giving me anything, because talking won't change what's already done." He turned to walk back to the stage. I grabbed his arm. Not hard, just enough to stop him. "Don't walk away from me." He looked at my hand, then at me. "Let go." "Not until you admit it. All of it." "Dad." Melissa's voice from the stage. "I'm calling security." Edison pulled his arm away. "You're done. Accept it." He walked back to the stage, climbed up, returned to his discussion with the venue manager. Like I wasn't there, like I'd never been there. Melissa was on her phone. I heard her say, "Yes, we have a situation. Someone who won't leave." I stood there for another moment. Then I walked out. In the parking lot, I sat in my truck, hands shaking. Not from fear, from rage. Edison had looked at me and seen nothing. No father, no supporter, no person who mattered. Just an obstacle, a problem to be managed. Laura called. What happened? He admitted it. All of it. Did anyone else hear? No? Then it doesn't matter. It matters to me. I know, but legally, practically, it doesn't change anything. She was right. I had my son's confession, spoken privately, unprovable. It meant everything and nothing simultaneously. What now? I asked. Now we prepare. The ceremony is in 4 weeks. That's when it matters. He'll have security. He'll have control. Then we need to take control away from him. How? I'm working on it. I drove home. The city passed by the windows, familiar streets, familiar buildings. I'd spent 30 years building things here. Edison had spent 4 years building a reputation. His was worth more now than mine. That was the reality. But reputations, like buildings, could be destroyed. You just needed to know where to apply pressure, where the foundation was weakest, where one good hit would bring everything down. I was going to find that spot, and I was going to push. Morrison called me the next morning. I heard what happened at the Cultural Center. News travels fast. Edison's telling people you threatened him. I didn't threaten him. That's not what he's saying. He's telling people you grabbed him, that you were aggressive, that security had to be called. Security didn't do anything. I left before they arrived. Doesn't matter. The story's out there, and people are believing it. I sat down at the kitchen table. How bad is it? Bad enough. Chen called me this morning, asked if I thought you were okay, said maybe you needed help. Christ. It gets worse. Edison's talking about a restraining order, says he's concerned for his safety. That's insane. Maybe, but it's effective. If he gets a restraining order, you can't go anywhere near him, including the ceremony. I understood. This was the play. Edison wasn't just defending himself. He was cutting off my options, making sure I couldn't interfere. Can he do that? I asked. If he files the right paperwork, claims credible threat, maybe. Depends on the judge. I need to talk to a lawyer. You need to talk to Laura first. Figure out what you're actually trying to accomplish. He was right. Laura had been planning something. She'd said she was working on taking control away from Edison. I needed to know what that meant. I found her in the office, surrounded by papers. She looked up when I came in. I know, she said before I could speak. You know what? About Edison threatening a restraining order. Diane called me an hour ago. How does Diane know? Because Edison went to the university lawyer, asked about getting a protective order against a family member. The lawyer consulted with HR. Diane heard. Can he actually get one? Maybe. If you gave him cause. Did you? I grabbed his arm. That's it. Laura nodded slowly. That's probably not enough, but it doesn't matter. The threat is the point. To keep me away from the ceremony. Yes, and to make you look dangerous. I sat down. So, what do? We changed the game. How? She pulled out a file folder, opened it on the desk. Inside were photographs. Edison's house, his car, the university building where he worked. What is this? I asked. Surveillance. For the last 3 weeks, I've been tracking his movements. Where he goes, who he meets, what he does. Why? Because I wanted to know if he's hiding anything else. Is he? Yes. She showed me the photographs. Edison meeting with city council members at restaurants. Edison having lunch with donors. Edison visiting a construction site downtown. What construction site? I asked. A new municipal building. City Hall Annex. Edison's been involved in the planning. Why? Because it's phase 3. After the archive, he wants to manage municipal building projects, public-private partnerships, exactly what his new position is designed for. He's building an empire? Yes, one project at a time, and each project requires funding, which means donors. She showed me another photograph. Edison shaking hands with a man I didn't recognize. They were standing outside an expensive restaurant downtown. Who's that? I asked. Nathan Price, real estate developer. He's been bidding on municipal contracts for years. So 3 days after this lunch, Price's company won a bid for preliminary work on the City Hall Annex, $200,000 contract. I understood. Edison influenced the decision. Can't prove it, but the timeline is suggestive. Is this illegal? Not necessarily. Edison's job is community partnerships. Meeting with developers is part of that. But if he's receiving anything in exchange for favorable treatment, that's a problem. Do we know if he is? Not yet, but I'm looking. I studied the photographs. Edison's face in each one was calm, professional, confident. He knew what he was doing. He'd always known. What's the plan? I asked. Laura closed the folder. We can't beat him legally. The archive project was successful. His consulting fees were approved. The fake email is hard to prove. Even if Patterson writes more stories, Edison's already controlling the narrative. So we're done? No, we're just not fighting on his terms anymore. What terms are we fighting on? Social, personal, emotional. I waited. The ceremony is in 4 weeks, Laura continued. Edison will be on stage, accepting recognition for Phase 2, cementing his position. Everyone who matters will be there. City officials, university administrators, donors, media. And you'll be there too. He's trying to keep me away. Let him try. The restraining order won't happen. You haven't done anything serious enough. But even if it does, it doesn't matter. How? Laura leaned forward. Because I'll be there, and I'm going to tell the truth. I stared at her. You're going to speak at the ceremony? Yes. They won't let you. They will if I'm introduced properly, if I have a reason to be on that stage. What reason? I'm a donor, too. I blinked. What? 3 weeks ago, I made a donation to Phase 2, $20,000. We don't have $20,000 to spare. We do. I moved it from the retirement account, and I did it in my name, not yours, which means I'm a recognized donor, which means I get acknowledgement at the ceremony. Edison will block it. He can't. The Riverside Foundation already confirmed my donation and acknowledgement. It's done. I understood. You bought a seat at the table. I bought a microphone, and when I have it, I'm going to use it. To say what? The truth. About the fake email. About Edison's manipulation. About how he used his father's reputation and money to build his career. They won't believe you. Maybe not. But they'll hear me, and they'll have questions, and Edison will have to answer them publicly, with everyone watching. I looked at my wife. She'd been quiet for weeks, working in the background, letting me process my anger. But she'd been building something the entire time. A plan, a strategy, a way to win. This could backfire, I said. It could. Edison might discredit me the same way he's trying to discredit you, but I don't think he will. Why not? Because I'm not you. I'm not angry. I'm not aggressive. I'm just a wife and mother concerned about integrity. That's harder to attack. She was right. Edison had built a narrative around me being unstable, confused, jealous. But Laura? She was calm, intelligent, respectable, a paralegal with 20 years of experience, someone people trusted. When do we tell him? I asked. We don't. Let it be a surprise. He'll be furious. Good. Angry people make mistakes. I thought about Edison at the Cultural Center. His confidence, his certainty. He thought he'd won. Thought he'd neutralized any threat I posed. But he hadn't thought about Laura. Nobody ever did. She was background, support, the quiet presence that made everything work. Edison had made the same mistake everyone made. He'd underestimated her. What do you need from me? I asked. Stay away from Edison. Don't give him ammunition. Don't do anything he can use to prove you're unstable. That's it? No. I need you to be ready. For what? For when it all comes apart. Because it will. And when it does, Edison might do something stupid. Like what? I don't know. But he's invested everything in this image. If it cracks, he'll fight to protect it. You think he'll be violent? I think he'll be desperate, which is worse. I nodded slowly. She was right. Edison wasn't a physical threat. He was a strategic one, and desperate strategy was unpredictable. I'll be ready, I said. Over the next 3 weeks, I stayed away from Edison. Didn't call, didn't visit, didn't try to communicate, let him think he'd won, let him prepare for the ceremony with no idea what was coming. Laura kept working. She refined her speech, memorized it, practiced delivery until it was perfect. Calm, factual, devastating. I'm not accusing, she told me one night. I'm just asking questions. Why was Robert's acknowledgement removed? Why were the emails sent from an account he didn't know existed? Why did Edison call to confirm wishes his father never expressed? Questions he can't answer. Not without admitting guilt, and he won't do that publicly. So what will he do? Deflect, attack, Try to make it about us instead of him. Will it work? Not if we're prepared, not if we stay calm. I wasn't sure I could stay calm. Every time I thought about Edison looking at me in that empty hall, seeing nothing, treating me like utility, I felt rage build in my chest. But Laura could stay calm. She'd always been better at that than me. 2 days before the ceremony, Patterson called. "I have more," he said. "More what?" "Evidence. I talked to someone at the university, off the record. They confirmed Edison's consulting fees raised concerns internally. Not enough to block approval, but enough that there was discussion. Will they go on record? No. Too risky for them professionally. But I have the information. I can report it without naming sources." "When?" "After the ceremony. I want to see what happens there first." "Why?" "Because if your wife does what she's planning, and Edison responds poorly, that's the story. Not the financial impropriety. The human element." "You talked to Laura?" "She contacted me last week, explained her plan, asked if I'd be there to document it." "Will you?" "Yes. This is good journalism. Public interest, accountability, everything a local paper should cover. Or it's a family destroying itself. Maybe it's both." He was right. This wasn't just about municipal transparency anymore. It was personal, ugly, the kind of story people would remember. The ceremony was scheduled for Saturday afternoon, 2 p.m., the same cultural center, the same setup, the same stage where Edison had stood 6 months ago accepting his first award. Laura and I dressed carefully that morning. She wore a dark blue dress, professional, understated. I wore a suit I'd bought for our daughter's wedding 5 years ago. We looked respectable, calm, stable. "You ready?" I asked. "Yes." "You sure?" "No, but I'm doing it anyway." We drove downtown. The parking lot was full. The ceremony was well attended. Important people. Edison had succeeded in making this matter. Inside, the lobby was crowded. I saw faces I recognized, city council members, university administrators, people I'd worked with over 30 years. Some nodded politely, others looked away. Edison was near the stage, talking to a group of donors. Melissa stood beside him, smiling, perfect. He saw us. His expression froze for a moment. Then he said something to Melissa and walked over. "What are you doing here?" His voice was low, controlled. "We were invited," Laura said calmly. "No, you weren't." "I was. I'm a donor. Check the list." He pulled out his phone, scrolled, his face hardening. "You donated. 20,000, which makes me a recognized contributor, which means I'm speaking today." "No, you're not." "Yes, I am. It's in the program. Check if you want." He looked at me. "This is your idea." "No," I said. "It's hers." "You need to leave. Both of you." "We're not doing anything wrong," Laura said. "We're just attending a ceremony we were invited to." "Dad has a history of disruption." "He's not speaking. I am. And I've prepared appropriate remarks about the importance of transparency and acknowledgement in public projects." Edison understood. His jaw clenched. "You can't do this." "I can, and I will, unless you'd like to explain to everyone why you don't want a donor speaking." We stared at each other. Edison, Laura, and me. A family triangle that had fractured somewhere along the way. "You're making a mistake," Edison said quietly. "We'll see," Laura replied. He walked away. Melissa followed. They talked urgently near the stage entrance. I saw Edison pull out his phone, make a call. "He's trying to stop it," I said. "He can't, not without causing a scene." "What if he does?" "Then he loses. Either way, we win." People started moving toward the auditorium. We followed. Laura's seat was listed in the 3rd row with other major donors. Mine wasn't listed anywhere. I'd have to stand in the back again. "I'll be fine," I told her. "I know you will." She squeezed my hand and walked toward her seat. I watched her go, this woman I'd spent 40 years with, seeing her with new clarity. She'd always been strong. I'd just forgotten how much. I found a spot against the back wall. The auditorium filled quickly. 300 people, maybe more. The energy was different from the last ceremony, more official, more important. At 2 p.m., the lights dimmed. The ceremony began.